All right, so recording is in progress, okay? So if you want to say hi in the comments, that's fine. If you want to switch on your mic or your video, that's fine. If you're not comfortable with that, feel free to switch it off. That is completely fine. So yeah, welcome to Analyze Your Own Netflix Data. It is a 60-minute workshop. It might be a few minutes shorter or longer, depending on how we get on, but that is the time that it'll take roughly. So yeah, just to give you an overview of the topics. So first we're going to have a few introductions. I'm going to introduce myself in a bit. Then we're going to explore our data. We're going to be doing a bit of tidying. We're going to look at research questions that we might have, and then we might look at visualizing data and drawing our own conclusions. And yeah, just to get started with the beginnings. So I just want to say hi and to explain a little bit about myself. I'm an English teacher here in Seoul at the moment. And while I do enjoy analyzing data and coding, I'm not a professional. So what I'm going to show you, there are probably better ways of doing it. That is entirely possible. I'm not in the field per se. So if you have something that you want to say, if you have a question or a comment or a suggestion, feel free to say so. And also I wanted to find out, sorry, what brings you here today? Why are you attending this meetup? What are you planning on getting out of it? Okay, just to give you a second, maybe we've got a few more people joining. Let's have a look. Just to remind you, sorry, this is being recorded. We've got Demetrius, we've got Dora, we've got Lila. Let's have a look. We've got somebody called Harsh. Okay, hope everyone's okay. Are you currently studying data analysis? Do you want to get more out of Netflix? What's bringing you here today?
Hi, Laura.
Yes, Alfie.
Yeah, you probably know why I'm here, but
Yeah.
so I'm also a teacher in the Seoul area.
Mhm.
I don't teach. Well, you say you teach English, right?
Right.
Yeah, I teach Spanish,
Mhm.
and currently pursuing PhD on
Wow.
technology education, and I use data to analysis to currently just for my research work, and just want to practice, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, cool. Well, I feel like you're in the right place. We've got somebody called Lana. If anybody else wants to say hi. You'd like to build a portfolio? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right. Let me just proceed and then I'll have a look at the chat in a second. So, okay. So just to give you a preview of what we're going to do, what we're going to do is we're going to tidy our data. We're going to explore a little bit and then we're going to visualize. And yeah, before we do anything else, I just want to find out, are you coding along on Colab? Do you just want to watch? Are you on VS Code? Are you on a Jupyter notebook? So what I'll be doing myself is I will be on VS Code in a Jupyter notebook environment, but I will show you in a second if you are on Colab or in Jupyter how to proceed with that one as well. Okay, so let me just get out of that one and let me check the chat 1 sec. Wait. You're a trainee data engineer, you're here to practice. You also want to have a project for a portfolio. Yep, sounds good. Okay. Let me just maybe show you my notebook. Just 1 sec. So, okay, right on. Okay, so if we're just here in VS Code, the first thing that I want to do with you is I want to look at the raw data. And yeah, can I just ask, did anybody not download their Netflix data, or did you maybe download the sample data?
I'm working with the sample.
You're doing this? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Just to give you a little note, so when I uploaded the project originally, I did have a data frame, but then when I was looking at it, I didn't find it very user-friendly. So let me just, I updated it maybe about a week ago. Let me just show you what that looks like. So, there we go. So what you have here, so what I did is I subsetted a bit of different account data. And if you're working with that one, so that is available on the event page. Let me just maybe pop that into the chat just for everyone to be able to access it. Yeah, definitely you can download your friend's zip file. So if you're going back to the event page and then you download this sample CSV data here, let me just do that with you just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So we're here now and we say download, and we say download as comma separated values, and we're chucking that into downloads like so. Really need that. And I do want to replace, yep. So we're here now. And then let me show you as well. So if you're in Colab, what you can do, so the first thing is, let me just give you the link for that one as well. So for example, if you're here in Colab, is that the same one? Yes, it is, perfect. So if you're in Colab, the first thing that you can do is you just import your libraries that you may need, like so. And then if you want to use your local CSV file, what you can do, let me just run that really quickly. What you can do is you can actually use a file from your local drive. Let me just put that in the chat box as well for easier access. And then just have that finish running. Oh dear, Colab is so slow. Okay, so now we've got our libraries, and now we run this code. And what it does is it opens this little box down here, which is really, really cool. So you say choose files, and you go back to whatever place you downloaded your CSV file as. So we say open, like so, and boom, it's there. Really cool. I found this out relatively recently. I was so excited to find out that that was a thing. And yeah, and then all you do is you read in your data frame. And let me just put in the chat as well. Like so. Okay. And if you're just in VS Code, all you need to do is, let me just, so let's say you are in your Netflix report. And if you open the zip file, there will be a folder, you extract those, and then you go into content interaction. And then what you have here is you have a CSV file called viewing activity, and that contains all of your Netflix data. And if you were to click open on that one, what it does is it gives you the CSV file, which looks like this. Okay, but can I just check, does everybody have their data loaded in if you want to follow along? Or do you want me to go over that again? Let me just check the chat. Okay. Alfie, how are you getting on?
So I had a little bit of a hiccup trying to just upload. So I put the CSV file, the one that you give us, and into the same folder. and I'm just still just working out, trying to put it together. So I think I will switch to collabs instead. But I'm just opening. Find just collabs on Jupyter. They're pretty helpful, but sometimes are a
Yeah.
little bit slow. So, but I'm
Okay, let
just
me,
creating the.
do you know what? Let me just maybe share the Collab notebook as well, just maybe for everyone to have a little sort of boilerplate guide. And yeah, so let's say we'll put you as viewer, and that allows you to download it onto your own machine. One sec. Let me just put that in the chat, and hopefully that'll be useful for everyone, like so. Okay.
Just make a copy,
Yeah,
and then work from there, and I can probably just run the code.
Yeah.
So I see
Is that better?
yeah, I think it will be just easier to follow. I see the libraries that you put there. Seaborn is for visualizing, same as Matplot, right?
Right. Yeah, that's correct.
And then NumPy and the pandas, they're both for just data, just like parsing and with it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. That's my understanding of it. Yeah. Okay. Is everybody okay? Do you want me to go any of these steps again? Just viewing is okay if you feel like it's a bit much. It's okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
In that
So
case,
far, okay.
yeah. In that case, let me go back to my VS Code just because I find Collab really slow, and I'm just going to continue with VS Code from now on. Okay, so what we have now is we've got our CSV file here. And then if I just look at the data, so what I find is that the column names are really long, and I'm not really interested in other people's data. I'm just interested in my own. So if you just want to inspect your own data, we'll just put that, we'll just use head, like so. And what it does is, if we look at it, it gives us the profile name, start time, duration, some attributes, the title, all kinds of things that we're not really interested in. So the first thing that I did was I just renamed the columns, like so. And the next thing that I did was I only wanted to have the data that is related to myself. So I just subsetted the data to where the profile name said Laura. And then the next thing that I found was that I don't really need all of the columns. So I dropped all of the columns that I found were not really of interest. So, and what I ended up with in the end is to again check my work is I just use head. And then what I ended up with was I had the date and I had the duration for how long I watched it. And then I had the title of whatever I was watching. Okay, so just to give you maybe a moment to catch up with that. And let me just have a look at the chat.
I'm just catching up slowly there. Just it just
take some time.
finished reading. Yeah, I think just collabs are great, but they just it's because it's a web app. It takes for
it does take a while.
Load.
Oh, just to reiterate, so where it has the little line about the drop bit, we're using axis 1 to indicate that we're dropping the columns. If you were to say axis 0, it would be dropping the rows, I think. So that's why we have to use axis 1. Okay.
Laura, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I encounter an issue after just choosing the file, and I'm trying to
Uh-huh.
load the data, and I
Uh-huh.
think it's probably just have to do with the
Yeah.
but I see the activity, and that CSV thing, but it just
Yeah.
come back with an error. Not such a file on the directory, even though I choose it from it.
Okay. Did you save it as viewing activity? Like that exact
Viewing
name?
activity. Just download it, just like what is
Yeah.
I see. I think there is a problem because the name just came viewing activity and viewing activity
Yeah.
twice. I would just change the name. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. I've made that mistake so many times myself, to be honest. Yeah. Okay. Just to give you a moment to catch
Thank
up.
you.
Anybody got any questions? Am I okay to proceed? I don't want to rush you, but I don't want to be too slow either. Yeah.
I will catch up, but don't wait for me. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. So the next thing that
Just
we can
waiting to
do
load
is
the
we
file.
can use.
Yeah.
So what we can do now is we can use info and describe just to explore a little bit. It's not a big must. It's pretty much optional, but what it does, it tells us, so first of all, the data types that we have in our columns now, they're all strings. And we don't have any missing data. We have 2,000, well, in my case, I have 2,718 rows, and they are start, duration, and title, okay? And then if I just use describe, let me just pop that in the chat box. If I just use describe like so, it tells us what are the most frequent values. And so, for example, if I look at start or duration. So if I look at duration, right, the most frequent duration is 2 seconds. Okay. So what I have learned for now is apparently I've got fumble fingers, or maybe I don't know how to play Netflix. I don't know. And then the other thing that I noticed is that the most frequently accessed title is a movie called Corpse Bride. And yeah, so that is what I have at the moment, but it doesn't really tell us much. Okay. So what I was looking at the data, so what I wanted to find out for myself were what were the 5 most rewatched titles, what are the titles that I go back to the most, and then I wanted to find out what are my top titles in terms of watch time. What do I actually watch for? What do I watch the longest? And then I also wanted to find out what is the day of the week or the hour of day that I usually watch Netflix. So can I maybe see some sort of patterns? Okay. And then the first thing that I wanted to find out is the rewatch ones. So what I do is I create a new variable and I look at the value counts. And what that does is, and I use the head method. And what that does is it gives me the top 5 titles by counts. Okay. And let me just pop that in the chat as well, like so. Okay. And yeah, so if I have a little look here, Corpse Bride features prominently. And then I've got a series of unfortunate events, which was something that I was watching for work. So I guess that's why it keeps popping up. Yeah. So what if you're coding along, if you're following along, what are your favorite titles? What is something that comes up in your top 5?
So far, I'm playing with the same data set, so I'm just having the same. Yeah.
Nah. Are you all on that bit where I am now? Or are you still, is everybody still catching up? I don't want to rush anybody. Okay. Alfie, how are you getting on?
Good, actually. I have to take off. I just so sorry, but I will just look or go on GitHub and then just try to do it. But thank you so much.
Oh no,
about that.
Dora is. Harsh is still doing something with their card. Yeah, we're just going to give it a second. Sure. Let me just maybe scroll up a little bit in case you need to see something. By the way, do you want me to zoom in a little bit? Can you see the screen, or is it too small? Is it too big? Let me maybe zoom in just a little bit. Is that better, maybe? Yeah, I feel like that looks a bit better. That's better. Yeah, sounds good. Diana's viewing as well. Oh, okay, sounds good. Well, in that case, yeah, I mean, if I'm being too quick, do let me know. Otherwise, I'll just proceed. Okay. So we've got our top titles now, and then what I want to do is I want to visualize those top titles for easier viewing. And then what I do is I make a mini data frame from my top titles. Let me just chuck that in here, like so. And then what I'm doing is I'm using the titles as my index column, and I'm using the counts as another column. And then what I end up with is I've got my titles and then I've got my counts over here. And then we can actually use that nice and easy as our data frame to visualize the whole thing. Okay, so let me just copy this whole bit in like so, and then I'm going to explain. Lana's also watching. That sounds good. Then I'm going to explain what we're doing here. That's a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, so first of all, if we look at SNS set style, so what that does is it gives us a sort of dark layer, which I personally like. Then plt.figure, and then that just gives us the size of the graph. Set context, so we're saying notebook. So in this case, notebook means because we're using it in a Jupyter Notebook environment. Font scale, I think I can't remember if I increased it or decreased it. Let's have a look. Let's see, maybe if I run this whole thing again. Let's say maybe 1.5. Okay, so that increases the font a little bit. Oh, maybe that's a bit big. Ooh, no, that was a bit too big. Let me go back. So let's say font scale to 1. Yeah, so that, okay, so 1 decreases the font a little bit for, yeah. And then if you see here, the RC bit, what that does is it increases those white lines, which I personally find aesthetically pleasing, which is why I kept it in. And then I defined X and Y. So the X-axis are our titles and the Y-axis is our counts. And then I just went for a very simple bar plot. We've got X, we've got Y. And then what I did is I manually set the colors. And the reason for that is because I have similar movies that I'm using further down below. And I wanted to be able to access these specifically. And then there are actually some specific colors that you can, excuse me. There are actually some colors that you can specifically access in Matplotlib, which are these bad boys down here. We've got aqua, black, blue, and so forth. So you can access them by name. Okay, so we've got the hard part, and then all this bit here, all that does is we have a little label for our y-axis, for our x-axis. We've got a title. And then what I found was because my titles are so long, I had to rotate that a little bit. So that's why I'm using rotation set to 3. And then I just show the plot, and then I clear the plot. Just to show you what I've done here. So we've got the titles, and just it's very easy to see. Apparently, I just really love Corpse Bride. Apparently, that's my favorite thing. Not sure what that says about me. And if you have a little look here, so I've rotated the titles so that you can actually see what the individual title is. If your titles are a bit shorter, maybe you're not going to have to do the rotation bit. Okay. And let me have a look at the chat. Hi, Dimitris. Yeah, Dimitris, what I'm going to do is I will share the code in a bit following the meetup. I will send that out in an email for everyone who RSVP'd. Top titles. Okay, Harsh. So what that does is we're going into our data frame, and we're looking into the title column. Value counts groups the, oh, you just want to, yeah, that's fine. The value counts column basically looks into your top columns, and it counts how many times that title has occurred, and it sorts them, so highest to lowest. And then the head method just shows the top 5. So basically what I've done with that is it gives us the top 5 titles from the data frame. Does that make sense? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've done that, but then what I wanted to find out next was I wanted to find out what I actually watched the longest. Okay. And if you, let me just show you that bit. If you remember, when we looked at our data frame in the beginning, all the data types, they're not actually numbers or whatever, they're all objects, they're all string objects, and we can't really do anything with that. So what we need to do with data that is date related or time related is we need to change that into a different format. Okay, and the way to do that is to use the pandas method to time delta, and we're passing in the duration column. Okay, and we set that equal to our df duration column. Okay, and just to put that in the chat, like so. Okay, and then if we run that, what that does is it now converts our watch time to duration. And what I then want to, okay, so this is going to take a moment. What I then want to do is I want to group my watch time. So let me first put that into the chat box, and then I will explain it. Just one sec, please. Like so. Okay. So first of all, we are selecting our data frame, and we're looking at the title, and we're looking at the duration. And we want to group by title. And we want to sum our duration. And then what we want to do is we want to have our top titles by duration. So we say sort values. We sort them by duration. And we need to say ascending false. So what that does is it puts the longest duration on the top. And then because I want to explore a little bit, I want to have the first 20 entries. So I want to find out what titles have I watched the longest for? What are the top 20 titles by watch time? Okay. So if we have a little look down here. So again, apparently Corpse Bride comes out on top, and then we've got a series of unfortunate events. Okay, A Beautiful Mind. We've got documentary IT Crowd, yay. And we've got Friends. Bit of a mix. And so what I wanted to find out, so I was looking at my watch times, right? And what I wanted to find out was, so I've got all these series, but I know for a fact that I watch Friends all the time. It's kind of like a background noise kind of thing, but doesn't even feature in my duration, right? So what I did, well, I'm sure there's a better way, but I decided to use my brain, and I decided to go over my favorite shows using rejects. Okay, let me explain to you what I mean by that. So I decided to convert my time to an amount in hours, and I want to use rejects, so regular expression set to false, that I am not, that is not a regular expression. Oh my God, what am I? Oh dear, what it is not a, what am I doing here? Is to be treated as a string. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Is to be treated as a string. As a string. Oh dear, oh dear, dear. Shocking. Now, so let me explain. I feel like, okay. So for my first item, so I know that I love corpse bride, right? So I've got corpse bride here, and I set the duration, and I select corpse bride, and I want to sum up the duration. And this bit here is important. Okay, I know it looks like a comment, it's not. This bit here is important. I'm setting the time delta to hours. Okay, let me just put that in the chat. Next slide. What the idea? The idea. Okay. What that does is we're looking at the duration of Corpse Bride, and it tells me I've been watching it for 20 hours. Wild. Okay. But I also know that I've been watching a series of unfortunate events, right? So now I want to find out how long have I actually been watching that. And here is where the rejects set to false comes in. So we're saying here all the titles that contain a series of unfortunate events are to be grouped into this variable. And then I take the variable, I sum up the durations. Let me just put that in the chat. Sorry. Okay, so one more time. I'm not using that for Corpse Bride because it's not a series, but I have a series, for example, Friends. I have a series, have Friends, a series of unfortunate events. For these, I need to use rejects. Okay, let me just give you a second maybe to digest that. Okay. Okay. Is that okay? Can I proceed, or is everybody still reading a little bit? Okay, the rejects part, yeah. Okay, let me try. So for movies where I have the exact title, I don't need to use a regular expression. But for series, so if I have a series, it just looks at the titles, right? But it doesn't actually tell me the watch time for series where I've watched different episodes because they have different titles, right? Let me, hold on. Okay, one second. So if I look here, if I look at the durations, I have all these titles, and they're all about a series of unfortunate events. And I want to find out how much have I actually been watching all of these series of unfortunate events titles. So even though they have different title names, they are all the same series, right? So the reason why I'm using regex down here is because I want to group all the titles that contain a series of unfortunate events. I want to put them all into one box. And I'm using regex false because I'm trying to tell this Jupyter notebook that I'm not using it as a function. I'm using it as a string. I'm looking for a string. I'm not looking for any functions. Oh God, I hope I'm explaining that terribly, aren't I? Ooh, let me have a look at the chat. You could just try. You can't figure out how to unmute your mic to speak. Yeah, maybe contains would work. I haven't tried that one. Why that SS is important. Okay, so the regex part, basically what the regex bit does is it takes all our episodes that contain a series of unfortunate events. Okay. All right. Let me just go down a little bit further. So basically what I've done here is I'm just going through all the series that I know that I watch frequently. For example, Friends, Black Mirror, Love, Death and Robots, and The IT Crowd, Monty Python. And I look at the watch time and then I manually pick the ones, more or less, to be honest. And I'm sure there's a better way of doing it, but that's the bit that I came up with. So I do that, and I now I decided to look at my durations, and I tried to plot my top 5 durations. Okay, let me just look at the chat. Okay, all right. So what I've done here. Okay, let me just pop that in the chat box, like so. Okay, and let me just, excuse me, let me just explain to you what we're doing. So we're using a similar code as before. We're using dark grid over here. The figure is the same size. It's still set to notebook. I've decreased the font size a little bit. That's all the same. And then I have on my x-axis all the titles that I determined my top 5 titles by watch time. And then on my y-axis, I'm using Friends duration, then a series of unfortunate events, Corpse Bride, Black Mirror, and IT Crowd. And because I remember using Corpse Bride before, I'm using the same color, and I'm also using the same color for a series of unfortunate events, which is why I'm using, again, the custom colors down here. Then, as before, we've got a label for the y-axis, for the x-axis, and the title. Okay, and just to show you what that looks like. So looking at it now, it actually turns out that Friends is the thing that I watch the most. Then there's a series of unfortunate events, and then there's Corpse Bride as a title, which is kind of on par with other series that I've watched. But Friends is definitely the big winner in this bit. Okay. Do you want me to go over that again? Anything I should explain a bit better, maybe? It's okay. All right. All right. Okay, now let's have a look. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to find out was I wanted to find out on what day and what hour of the day I was watching Netflix. So again, if you remember our formats, they're all in strings, which doesn't really do much for us. So we need to convert that. So the start time provided by Netflix is Coordinated Universal Time, UTC. So we need to change that format, and then we need to move that time over to your local time zone. In my case, that's Korean Standard Time. And the hours go from 0 to 23, and the days go from 0 to 6. So Monday through Sunday in pandas. We will also need to reset the index. And yeah, if you want to find your own time zone, let's just have a quick look. Woo. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So for example, in my case, I just, oh, where's Korea? Oh dear. Oh dear. How did I find Korea? That's crazy. Is there Seoul maybe? Let's have a look. Okay, right. So what I did is I input Seoul, and then I had a look here, and then KST is the code that I needed to use. Okay. So if you're in another time zone that is not UTC, you need to look at your city, and you need to find out, you need to find out your time zone abbreviation for this bit. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to convert my start column to daytime. Okay, and I pass in my start column and I say UTC true. Okay, so we've done that. Boom. And then I tell the data frame that I want to set the index column as start. And for some reason, I don't know why, it needs to have the index column set. I'm not quite sure why. I looked it up. It kind of likes it that way. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I couldn't quite fathom it out. So now we're here, we've got our index column, and the index column is the time zone, which in my case is converted to Asia, Seoul. And then I reset it again. Let me put that into the chat box. Friends is a winner. Yeah. Yeah. But like, if you just need to relax and if you don't want to think too hard, Friends is a good option. Love watching it when I'm sick or when I just don't want to, when I'm not quite on top of things. Or if I want to fall asleep, it's like a sleeping pill for me. So, okay. So we've converted our column and we've reset the index. And then what we can do is we actually encode our, sorry, we add new columns. We add the day column and the hour column. Like so. Okay, so let me just explain what we're doing here. Okay, so what we're doing here is we are creating new columns. One is called day and one is called hour. And what we're doing is we are accessing the start column and we're saying date time, and we're using weekday for our day column. And then for our column, again, we're going into our data frame. We're going into the start column. We're using date time and we're using the hour method. And then what that does, super interesting, right? Oh, I think so cool. What it does is it tells us that the days are encoded 0 to 6, and the hours of day are also encoded 0 to 23. Whoa, so cool. Wow. And then what you can do is, first, if we want to look at the days, right? First, we set them to categorical data. Oof. so interesting. We said it's categorical data. We're passing in our day column, and we're using these categories 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're saying that they are ordered because we are going from Monday to Sunday, right? So they are in order. They have to be in order. Okay. Check that. Yes, I did. And then what you can do, okay, if you want to sort of just have a quick little overview, you know, just to look at the numbers, you can look at the data's the views per day. It's just optional. It's not a big must. Okay, next slide. And what it does is, so it orders it from Monday through to Sunday. And just looking at it, it does seem as though I watch Netflix more on the weekend. And if I now want to have a look at it as a graph, we can use this graph here. And let me just put the code into the chat box as well, like so. Okay, so again, same thing, dark grid, we've got the figure, we've got the context. Now we're plotting the data per day, which we just did up here. And we are using Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, okay? Excuse me. And what we now have a look, what we now have as a visual representation. Apparently, I hardly ever watch on Thursdays, but then I definitely go in hard on Saturdays and Sundays, apparently. Interesting. I'll just give you a moment to let that sink in. Do you want me to go over anything? Nope. Okay. We have another 10 minutes. So just in the interest of keeping things going, I am going to proceed. If you do have something, please drop it in the chat. I'll have a look in a minute. Okay, so we've got that out of the way. And now what I want to find out is I want to actually look at what time do I actually watch Netflix. Okay, so again, we're doing the same thing as above. We're using the categorical method by hour. We're having these categories here. And again, we're saying ordered true because hours of the day are in order, right? Going in order. So like so. Woo! Okay. And then again, we're doing the same thing. We are encoding that as a variable. And if we have a look here, just as a visual representation, it does look as though I watch Netflix quite late. And now what we can do is we can also visualize all of that. In the chat as well. And let me explain what we're doing here. Okay, so same thing again. We are adding our graph. We're plotting our data per hour that we just did up here. And then we are labeling. And then if we look at the graph, okay, so we've got our y-axis label, x-axis label, we've got our ticks, we've got our title, we're showing it, we're closing it. If we have a look, so interestingly, apparently I really go for Netflix at 1 o'clock in the morning. which does make sense because at 1 o'clock in the morning is when I usually put in friends to fall asleep with. So that makes sense. Okay, and everything else, yeah, there are not really any crazy patterns. Those are my habits, really. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to wrap up in a second. So maybe other things that you could look at. For example, somebody was saying earlier, you could use contain, right? Totally fine. Maybe you could have a look at on your own time, maybe how much time do you spend in a week? Do you spend more on the weekend versus a weekday? I'm sure there's other things that you can come up with. And yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for your time and attention for now. Just looking at the chat for a minute. Is there anything starting with the, okay, Dimitri's saying you could reorder it starting with the morning and ending with late night. Yeah, can probably do that. That's a good point. Anything you would like me to go over? Anything you want me to check again one more time? The original data, yeah. Let me bring that up again. Wow. Like so. Okay. The original data, do you mean the CSV file? It looks like this. So if you open your data frame that you get from Netflix, it looks like this. Got some helpful color coding, and then got all kinds of things. That's all my data down here. Is that what you meant? Sorry. See, for more questions to answer, yeah, definitely. Data frame per day. Couldn't figure out how to post a screenshot. Do you know what I did? What I'm going to do is, looks wonky. Okay. Do you know what? Because I don't want to, I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Can you maybe email me, or can you maybe send me a message and I can have a look for you? That's totally fine. I will also send out this data frame in an email to everyone who RSVP'd. Let me just quickly put in the form like this. Sorry, if you use this page here and go to contact us, let me just show you. So there's my face down here. If you go to contact us, it'll bring up a little message. And then I think once you have me on email, you can send me a message as well. Oh dear, you didn't see that, what I just showed you, did I? Silly me, one sec. Let me just show you that again. Okay, so if you're up here and you use the contact us button down here, you can message me here. I can email you back. You missed some of the, yeah, I will send the recording. Yeah. Okay, so let me maybe just tell you what I'm going to do. So as this is being recorded, I will download it, I will render it, I will upload it to YouTube. And then I will also attach the notebook, the code for the notebook, and I will send you the links in an email. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Normally it does take a little moment just to download everything and get everything uploaded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that within the next 24 hours. I hope that's okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Was there anything that you learned today? Was there anything that you want to dig a little bit into? Anything confusing? What are you doing after this? Do you know what? Since we're just chatting, I'm just going to stop recording.